Every man has been there. You're trying to explain yourself, trying to get her to see reason, trying to make her understand the facts. You think that if you just phrase it the right way, she'll finally calm down and see your side. But instead, the opposite happens. The more you talk, the worse it gets. The more you defend yourself, the more she twists your words. The more you push for clarity, the more confusion builds until you both feel like you're speaking two completely different languages. By the end of it, you're not only frustrated, you're exhausted. You start questioning why you even tried, wondering if you're crazy for thinking the problem could be solved with logic. This is where most men get stuck. They think every conflict is a debate waiting to be won, so they double down, explaining, defending, correcting. But with women, this approach almost always backfires. You can't win a debate when the rules keep changing and the score doesn't exist. Because in that moment, she's not interested in logic, she's emotional. The more logical you become, the more emotional she becomes, and the cycle feeds itself until both of you are drained. The truth is, trying to argue with her in that state is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The harder you try, the hotter it gets. And this is why so many men lose their frame. They think being louder, being more detailed, or being more convincing is strength. It's not. Strength isn't proven by winning a shouting match. It's proven by knowing when not to shout at all. The man who refuses to argue doesn't avoid conflict, he rises above it. And that's where real power begins. In the heat of conflict, she isn't loyal to facts. She's loyal to feelings. You could show her proof, remind her what you said yesterday, even present the clearest evidence possible, and it won't matter. Her emotions are louder than your logic, stronger than your reasoning, and more compelling than anything you can say. The moment you try to argue, you step into a battlefield you can't win because the rules aren't yours. Most men don't realize this. They think a discussion is just a matter of clarity, that if they can explain one more time, phrase one more argument, or point out one more inconsistency, they will finally be understood. But with women in emotional states, explanations are invisible. Facts are irrelevant. Logic is powerless. What she really needs is to feel her own emotions, to release the storm inside her, and to know that you are steady, not that you are right. The man who never fights understands this instinctively. He knows that entering an argument is giving her chaos fuel, that defending yourself in the middle of an emotional storm validates her energy as the battlefield. Instead of engaging, he observes, listens, and chooses his moment carefully. He only speaks with calm authority once the storm has passed, when emotions have settled and reasoning is possible. That patience is not weakness, it is strength. It protects his frame, preserves his energy, and teaches her that escalation has no power over him. Arguments may feel like progress to some, but they are actually cycles that feed themselves. Calm presence, on the other hand, breaks the cycle. The man who refuses to fight doesn't suppress her feelings. He allows them to pass while maintaining control of his own state. And in doing so, he shows her that peace is stronger than chaos, that stability matters more than proving a point, and that leadership is measured by restraint, not by volume. This doesn't mean you ignore her or shut her out. It means you refuse to play by the rules of emotional combat. You stay present, you listen carefully, and you observe without reacting. You understand that every word you throw into the fire either fuels it or extinguishes it, and you choose wisely. Boundaries are the tool of the strong, the weapon of men who own their frame. Arguments try to convince, to persuade, to prove. Boundaries command. They are simple, clear, and final. I won't be spoken to like that. If you want to continue this conversation, we'll do it calmly. If you walk away, stay away until you are ready to talk respectfully. Those words are not invitations for debate. They are standards that set the tone for the interaction, for the relationship, and for how she will treat you moving forward. The man who enforces boundaries doesn't argue because he doesn't need to. His authority is inherent. Fighting is what men do when they have no control over their own state, when they feel compelled to prove themselves, when they have no center. Boundaries, on the other hand, require calmness, decisiveness, and presence. They are a silent statement of ownership over one's own life and emotions. When you speak your boundaries once, calmly and confidently, the energy shifts. She recognizes the line, consciously or unconsciously, and the conflict loses its fuel. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to explain for hours. You simply assert your standard and allow it to operate naturally. That is the difference between men who fight endlessly and men who lead with quiet authority. Strength isn't loud. Strength is still. Strength is unshakable. And the man who enforces boundaries never has to fight, because he has already taken the battlefield off the table. Women push, they test, and they provoke. But what they're really looking for is not a fight. They want to know if you can remain steady when they lose control. Can you lead when they resist? Can you hold your frame when they try to break it? The man who answers these questions with calm action never has to fight, because he already demonstrates strength through his presence. Arguments feed on energy, and when you refuse to give it, the storm eventually burns out. She may try to escalate, she may yell, she may push harder than ever, but when you remain grounded and unshaken, she begins to realize the limits of her own chaos. That realization is more powerful than any rebuttal or explanation you could offer. Think about kings. Kings do not argue endlessly, they do not raise their voices, and they do not prove themselves in every confrontation. A king speaks once, clearly and calmly, and expects his words to stand. If his authority is challenged, he enforces consequences, not debates. That is the measure of true leadership. The man who refuses to fight establishes the same principle in his relationships. He does not need to match emotion with emotion. He does not need to overpower with logic or insist on being right. He simply stays calm, patient, and present, letting the storm pass while maintaining his own state. His silence becomes a shield, his patience a weapon. And when she finally exhausts her energy, she sees that her attempts to destabilize you have failed. Your calm presence communicates more than any argument ever could. It shows her that you are steady, reliable, and in control, and it earns a level of respect and trust that fighting could never achieve. When you stop arguing, you stop rewarding chaos. Every time you let her pull you into a shouting match, you reinforce that drama is the way to get your attention. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to fight, you teach her that peace is the only way to engage with you. Women are quick to adjust to patterns of behavior. If screaming gets them nowhere, they stop screaming. If calm discussion yields results, they naturally shift toward calm discussion. It begins with you. You are the standard she measures against. Arguments may feel like progress because emotions are high, but in reality, they only deplete your energy and diminish respect. Leadership is not about proving you are right, it's about protecting the relationship, guiding it through turbulence without losing your own stability. Every argument avoided is an investment in yourself, your peace, and your influence. It also protects her from herself. In the heat of emotion, she may say things she doesn't mean, throw accusations that sting, or act in ways she later regrets. If you respond in kind, the damage multiplies. If you stay calm, you absorb nothing but still demonstrate strength. This is how you teach her how to behave around you without ever saying it directly. Calm presence replaces chaos with stability. Boundaries replace reactive arguments with authority. Every moment you resist the urge to prove yourself, you reinforce that your attention and respect are not to be won through storms, but through composure. This is the difference between weak men who fight endlessly and strong men who lead without raising their voice. By refusing to argue, you elevate the relationship from a battleground to a space where respect and trust flourish naturally, and your authority becomes unshakable without ever being contested. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but arguments are optional. Weak men fight, they shout, they defend, they react, and they lose energy, respect, and clarity. Strong men redirect. They listen without reacting, let her speak without interruption, and maintain their calm while enforcing boundaries. The man who never fights protects not only himself but also her, because he shields her from words said in anger she will later regret. She may throw insults, accusations, or frustrations, but when you don't respond with fire, the storm passes without permanent damage. Women admire men who can lead through conflict without losing their composure because it gives them a sense of safety. If you cannot handle her emotions, how can she trust you to handle life's bigger storms? That is why calmness builds respect. It shows strength, stability, and reliability. The man who never fights knows that her chaos will pass, that her storm will burn out, and that patience is more powerful than reaction. He doesn't need to meet fire with fire because he understands that endurance, presence, and restraint communicate far more than words ever could. By remaining steady, he earns respect without demanding it, commands attention without arguing, and teaches her how to engage with him without confrontation. The moment she realizes her attempts cannot shake you, she begins to align with your frame, not because she is forced to, but because she sees stability and leadership embodied in action. The man who refuses to argue does not avoid conflict, he masters it. He chooses his battles carefully, sets standards clearly, and protects his energy relentlessly. In doing so, he creates a relationship rooted in respect, trust, and calm authority. He doesn't just avoid fights, he eliminates the need for them entirely, standing as the anchor through every storm, unshakable and unwavering.